How's it going? My name is Bryce, and this is my channel, Striving Intellect. And today we're going to be talking about something that's important for everybody on Earth. And though it may not seem like it, it is something that can affect everybody, especially if it were to get worse. And that is space debris, or trash in outer space. And we're just going to jump into this article. This is on Science Alert, and it doesn't say an author for this. But as you can see, this is a picture of a Chinese spaceship. It looks like the Shenzhou 20 spacecraft. And I'll just get started on the article. Space junk likely struck China's Shenzhou 20, delaying crew's return. A suspected strike by tiny space debris has delayed the return of the Chinese spaceship Shenzhou 20 and 3 astronauts, Beijing Space Agency said on Wednesday. The Shenzhou 20 manned spacecraft is suspected of being hit by a tiny piece of space debris, and an impact analysis and risk assessment are underway, the China Manned Space Agency, or CMSA, said in a statement. The return of the spacecraft and the 3 astronauts planned for Wednesday has been postponed to ensure their safety, the statement said. Qingdong Qin Zhongru and Wang Jie, apologies if I got those wrong, had been expected to touch down the Dongfang landing site in northern Inner Mongolia. The CMSA did not give a new date for their return. A relief crew arrived at the Shandong space station aboard the Shenzhou 21 last week. And I mean, hopefully they're able to send help up to the astronauts up in the space station. Generally speaking, I wish them well. It's tragic if anything were to happen, so hopefully everything goes all right. Genuinely, I wish them the best. But that being said, that kind of is a worrisome thing. If there's space debris to the point that our astronauts can't even get down from a space station, then that's a problem. Massive, massive problem. And that actually kind of drives us to our next point. This is a map of the space debris of Earth at this moment. And as you can see, the lower Earth orbit, or LEO, right around the Earth, is just covered in debris. Absolutely covered in debris. And obviously, it seems like something that could become a problem eventually. It obviously could do horrible, horrible things to our ambitions of space travel if we can't even get out of the Earth because of trash blocking our way. And the thing is, even if it's a tiny, tiny piece of trash, if it's moving that fast in outer space or low Earth orbit, then it can become extremely dangerous. So we're just going to actually jump into this next subject, and it has to do with debris, and specifically it's called the Kessler syndrome. And this is actually a theory of what could happen if we were to specifically have so much debris and trash that we can't get out of the Earth's orbit. So I'm just going to read from this article. This is on frontiers.org. Kessler Syndrome, a Challenge to Humanity, by Amrith Murayappan and John L. Krasidis. Kessler syndrome is a global phenomenon characterized by the presence of tens of millions of debris pieces of various sizes that disrupt satellite operations. This article delves into the potential outcomes of Kessler syndrome occurrence and its implications on satellite operations. Might I add, it's not just satellites that it could actually affect, it's space travel in general, and at its logical extreme, you could have a scenario where human beings could not leave the Earth in a doomsday scenario, if you know what I mean. Obviously, hopefully that never happens. But worst comes to worst, we obviously do not want to be trapped on the planet. That seems like a pretty bad thing. But I'm just going to jump into the introduction real quick and read a little bit more of this article. Space has emerged as a key domain since the historic launch of the Sputnik 1, the first manned satellite, in 1957. Since then, there has been exponential proliferation of artificial objects in space, and these satellites serve diverse purposes, from the military to commercial applications to navigation and communication systems. Satellite communications have revolutionized global connectivity, becoming indispensable in the modern world. With more than 8,000 active and defunct satellites orbiting the Earth, satellite systems have become integral to daily lives and of individuals, businesses, and organizations around the world. The significance of satellite communication is evident from the fact that as of April 2022, there were 5 billion internet users, representing 63.1% of the world's population. That's a massive number. That is very, very significant amount of the world's population right there. Highlighting the massive dependence on satellite communications for various activities. I mean, if the satellite networks were to be taken down, it would be catastrophic for GPS, let alone all of our military communications. I think, like, generally speaking, it would be a pretty catastrophic event. Obviously, we'd want to prevent that at all costs. But again, I think the more worrisome thing to happen with space debris would be for us to eventually not be able to even travel from the planet. However, this escalating presence of satellites in space has led to a growing concern. Space debris, in particular the collisions of Iridium-33 and Cosmos 2251 satellites in 2009, generated a cloud of debris that continues to pose a threat to other satellites. Additionally, India's anti-satellite missile system in 2019 resulted in approximately 400 pieces of orbital debris, increasing the risks of International Space Station and Mariapan low Earth geostation orbits, where many operational satellites are located, have become cluttered with space debris, some traveling at hypervelocity speeds of 7 kilometers an hour to 15 kilometers a second. 7 kilometers a second to 15 kilometers a second. Even minuscule debris particles possess significant kinetic energy, posing threats to satellites and spacecraft. The risk of collision-induced chain reactions, as theorized by Donald J. Kessler in 1978, has gained traction and now is known as Kessler syndrome. This syndrome predicts an escalating space debris population that leads to an increased likelihood of collisions and further debris creation, resulting in a cascade of detrimental impacts. Such collisions, even minor ones, can set off a catastrophic chain reaction, jeopardizing all existing satellites and filling orbit with high velocity debris. Accessing space orbit would become immensely challenging, and the prospect of exploring outer space might be compromised. Computer-generated future scenarios indicate that space debris population may reach saturation, and collision will persist even without spacecraft launches. Again, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It's just computer generations. But obviously that would be catastrophic, massively catastrophic. I'm just going to jump into this article real quick. And mostly I want to look at some prices. I want to give some credit to this. This is a really cool article. This is on the Federation of American Scientists. And this is how do you clean up 170 million pieces of space junk? By Vijay Iyer. Sorry if I butchered your name. But mostly what I wanted to look at was this chart right here. Different methods of debris management technology. So right here it shows debris management method on the very left side. Application to debris size. Next to it, a description of how they do it, and an estimated cost in the low next to that, and the high next to that. So for example, tug for controlled re-entry, so tugging it into Earth's orbit so it falls back to the Earth. So that would cost in a low end $4,000 in American dollars per kilogram, up to $60,000 per kilogram. That's a massive amount of money. That's not a very efficient way of doing it. So this next one is another tug. It's a little bit less, it looks like. The next one after that is ground laser nudges. So that's fascinating. It looks like uses a laser to move an object without physical contact from the surface of Earth. Requires a lot of energy. So that could cost $300 per kilogram up to $6,000 per kilogram. But it seems as though that would cost about $600 million to develop that technology. That's really wild. That sounds like some science fiction technology. Fascinating stuff. But really, this is just to give you an idea of how much money it could possibly cost. So something like a physical sweeping, so directly impacting debris and to move it or relocate it. Something like that could cost $90,000 per kilogram to $900,000 per kilogram. And the kicker is, so the best thing about that is it would cost $90 million. It looks like either that or $90,000 million. They really did not print that very well. But that's a significant amount of money to even produce that technology of what seems like trash collection in outer space, which is fascinating. Outer space trashmen, I assume being drones or some type of unmanned technology. But that's not even the most expensive one. Like, there is, what is this? Recycling debris. Gathering and processing debris and processing it into space to use as fuel or other utilities. Obviously, that would be a really interesting way of actually dealing with it. It seems like it wouldn't be the most efficient at first, and obviously, by the price, it would not. $1.4 billion per 15,000 kilograms. So that is a massive amount of money per kilogram. That's insane. Absolutely insane. But really, this was just to kind of give you an idea of how much people think the cost to clean up outer space or have outer space trashmen or whatever they're going to use. Lasers, space lasers. which seems like the coolest one. But there are some technologies that are already coming out right now. And just to emphasize that it's not all doom and gloom, there's actually some companies that are coming out with technology to clean up our debris that we've left in outer space right now. So I'm just going to breeze through these real quick. I'm going to go through them. And it's just fascinating that there are going to be some brand new technologies that are working to clean up our Earth's orbit. So this is a article, and it has some of the newest companies. So I'm just going to go through them real quick. Paladin Space. So this is a Paladin Space manufacturing. It makes the Triton a reusable satellite payload that removes space debris using autonomous capture and secure containment technology. I mean, that's an interesting idea. It seems like a lot of these things may be kind of expensive. This is the ReCAE. And it looks like this was developed in Switzerland. The ReCAE provides a cloud-based application for control, reorbiting, or deorbiting of spacecraft and satellite at the end of their life cycle, which is very, very useful. We need a way of disposing of both full satellites and spacecrafts and space stations, and also debris that's been created by other means as well. So also really cool technology. Orbital lasers. So Japan looks like it's coming up with space lasers in order to nudge the debris out of the air or out of space into our orbit so it can fall in a controlled fall. So orbital lasers develop satellite-based laser technology for removing space debris by altering its trajectory with precise directed energy. This system vaporizes small debris surfaces to create thrust through that safety guides fragments into Earth's atmosphere for disintegration. I mean, this also is very, very sci-fi sounding. It sounds like something you would see in a movie, but it looks like they're creating space lasers to pick up trash from outer space or burn it out of our orbit or out of the sky, which is amazing. Like truly, truly mind-blowing technology. And hopefully we can actually deal with this debris and trash. I think that we can. We're an extremely adaptable. The human beings, generally speaking, can come up with an idea of solving generally any problem. So I have faith in human beings to be able to invent something or develop some type of technology to help us with this. But I just thought this was fascinating. And I hope you guys like this. Please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you.